All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's tournament strategy show where we'll look at last night's slate, we'll look at today's slate, and we'll just talk through the overall game plan for the day. And then, of course, on the pre-lock show, we'll talk through execution, who we're putting men's on, guys who want to be over on, that kind of thing. TK, how are you feeling, man? It's been a little bit since we've had you on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about today's slate. I like a lot of the game totals, and I'm just ready to go. How about yourself?
Yeah, man, feeling good, feeling good. It's been a little bit of a weird week. It's always weird between Christmas and New Year's. Just everything feels a little off, but we're
Yeah.
alive. We're kicking. That's all that matters. Let's look at last night's slate first and foremost. We have Derek White, who made the nuts line. It was a very interesting slate. As you can see, if you game stack this Detroit-Boston game, you were sitting pretty much the entire slate. You didn't need anyone really from like the super late games. This guy was in first, winning the 100K pretty early on. So digging deeper here, Derek White made the nuts line. He was a very viable play once we got the news that Jaylen Brown was going to be ruled out. If you watch the pre-lock show and if you watch this show too, we were very over the field on the Celtics, so that wasn't a surprise. Cade Cunningham was a bit of a surprise. We've been on the Cade Cunningham train for a while, but going up against Boston, I wasn't as excited about it. Did you have any thoughts on Cade yesterday, TK? It's fine if you didn't.
Now with Cade, he was the price looked good, but it's all about the ownership.
Yeah.
I would have definitely gotten double on the ownership.
Agreed. So ownership was super low on Cade. Wish I had more. Did not have any. Jason Tatum, he was a leverage play for us yesterday. He was also the thumbnail of the show yesterday. So he was surprisingly super low owned. I think everyone was really scared of the blowout here. So that went well. Porzingis did well. For me personally, last night was not my best night. I wasn't able to get off of Reith as much as I wish I could have. So that impacted me a lot. But Tatum helped make last night not the worst night in the world. It was just not great. Duran was not on him, but he crushed. Jamal Cain was the guard who ended up having a strong performance yesterday. Didn't play him at all. Wouldn't if I could do it again still. Peyton Watson was the chalky, low-owned guy who ended up doing, not low-owned, but chalky, cheap guy who ended up doing well last night. We were over the field on Watson around 50%, I believe, but didn't go crazy. And then, of course, Kevin Knox getting his 10 and a half points in by the second half made the nuts line at 3,500, which is a little wild. But anyway, that was last night's slate. It was a little weird. We hit on a good bit of these low-owned plays, but also missed on a lot. So it just wasn't the greatest night overall. But that's in the past. Let's look at today. Taco, good to see you, man. I always appreciate you checking in. Charlie, what's up? Thomas Dye, I hope you're doing all right, man. Taco said, who else barely missed getting Reith out before lock? He ended up being over 30% owned in cash. Yeah, it's funny. I got the notification while I was out and about, and I tried to do a global swap, and I could get him out of most of my lines, but not all. And I replaced him with Martin, so it just wasn't a great pivot option for me. So that was
Yeah,
unfortunate.
yeah, but Reed, that was just he came out of nowhere, just being ruled out. So
Yep.
wow.
And I wasn't even worried about Reith not starting. I didn't expect him to start. He does that sometimes. He comes off the bench and still plays more minutes than the starter. So just a weird situation. Phil, good to see you, man. Glad TK's back. Rodney, what's up, man? Dixon said, sorry I'm late, guys. Was shopping at Costco. No worries, man. Always good to get those lobster tails. Yeah, Porter Jr. disappointed a lot as well. Drummond disappointed last night. There's a long laundry list of guys who just didn't come through. You really needed exposure to that first game to elevate your lines to being top tier. Thomas was driving and had to pull over to make swaps. That's dedication, man. That's dedication. All right, let's get to today's slate. Starting off, we have the Nets going up against the Washington Wizards. As of right now, No crazy injury news for the Nets. It looks like everyone's going to be coming back outside of Lonnie Walker and Ben Simmons. Is anyone standing out for you in this matchup, TK?
Yeah, I love Claxton. I love Bridges. I love Cam Johnson, but my favorite is Claxton from the standpoint we all know to play centers when we go against Washington, and also in the last 10 games, Washington gives up 59 points in the paint. So Claxton should be able to get buckets, blocks, and all that good stuff. So Claxton is my favorite person from this whole game, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I like this game. The unfortunate part is it looks like we're not the only guys who like this game. They're seeing some decent ownership. Uh, Pretty much everyone's above 10% outside of Cam Thomas. I agree. Love playing bigs against the Wizards. I typically don't like playing Nick Claxton too much, but he's someone that I'm looking to prioritize or make sure I'm at least around field weight, which is 14, 15% right now. So as long as I'm seeing that, I'm comfortable considering going a little bit higher on him just because this is a really good matchup. So on the fence. Spencer Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges, we know Washington's just bad defensively across the board. So I'm okay getting exposure to these guys. But if they're not showing up for me naturally, I doubt I'll force it. A low owned Cam Thomas in a great matchup is interesting to me, but his minutes haven't been trending in the right direction just in general. And there's been news talking about him continuing to see less minutes. As long as he starts tonight, which I would expect him to still, I'm willing to have 5-10% Cam Thomas tonight being the lowest owned guy in a really good matchup, but it does concern me.
Yeah, I definitely agree about Cam Thomas. We all know he has the upside, but it's just the minutes.
Yep, that's the concern. Dixon said, "Can we trust Clayton's gonna play with?" Man, it could get sketchy, but I'm assuming it'll be fine. I don't overthink those situations too much, but that could be to my detriment. Next up, we have the Washington Wizards, and one of the reasons why I'm not as excited about Cam Thomas at 6,900 is because I like the other guard in this game at 6,900 and the second highest total game on the slate. And I know you guys are going to hate it, but I'm still going to like some of these guys here. But before I talk about that, TK, who are you looking at for Washington, if anyone?
Yeah, Washington was pretty hard to get to, but I understand. I definitely wouldn't be mad if I matched the field with Jordan Poole or Tyus Jones. But those guys are probably, I'll say, my favorite was Poole, but that's about it for me.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Poole was the guy that I was looking at. I like his price tag at 6,900. He's still dominating from a usage rate standpoint. I always say it, he just sucks as a player. So that's the the bad part about Jordan Poole. So with him being so low owned, though, I'm willing to go here against second highest total game on the slate. So he's probably going to be a leverage play for me tonight, which means I'll probably have anywhere from 10 to 15% of him as long as he's going to stay around 5% owned. And then Tyus Jones is also very viable. Sim Model has interest in them both, and so I'm totally fine with that. Gafford, I'm not planning on forcing exposure to, but if he shows up a little bit naturally in the DS, I'm okay with that as well. Anyone else you want to touch on here, TK?
No.
Okay, sweet. Next up, we have the Knicks going up against the Magic. The Knicks are once again one of the healthier teams in the league. But I mean, outside of the bigs who are going to be out for a while, Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson, is anyone standing out for you here?
With the Knicks, when I ran my dome this morning, nobody was really showing up. But I would definitely want some leverage on Brunson and Randall, just because knowing these guys have 50 plus upside, and I would definitely want to be able to feel on Brunson.
Yep. Yeah, it's an interesting spot where guys like Randall and Brunson and Isaiah are projecting decently well in the domination station. The Magic just haven't been a team I like attacking this year. So, again, not a situation I plan on forcing exposure to, but I'm comfortable with getting exposure to them naturally. So, just nothing too crazy. Taco said, I'm mailing you a 9-volt so you can get that smoke detector right. I think is that UTK?
Oh yeah, that's me. Y'all can. I don't know you guys can hear that. Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
TK.
Yeah. Did it freeze up, Bob? Hey guys, it froze for Bob. I don't know if that's
I think I lost you for a little bit there. I
okay.
don't know what happened.
Okay, yeah, because it froze up, and I guess you couldn't hear or see me, or
Yeah, I couldn't see anything, but
okay.
it's okay. What about the Magic? How are you feeling about them?
Yeah, with the Magic, I wasn't really getting to these guys. I know Suggs will continue to see an extra bit and more minutes if Harris stays out. But I'm not going to force him. I know Paulo Banchero, the last 5 games he's had over 40 straight DK points. So I know he's seen good minutes, but I wasn't really getting too much of Orlando.
Yeah. I thought I was going to have to restart the show. I was like, what happened? What broke? But it's okay. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it was just hitting the mannequin challenge. That was it. It's interesting. I'm right there with you, TK. I had more interest in Paolo and Franz before I looked at other plays that I liked a bit more on the slate. I mean, we know Paolo and Franz both have decent upside, but they're just not guys I'm looking to prioritize in this spot. But again, I'm not going to X them out. If they show up naturally, I'm okay with them, but they're just not guys I'm forcing exposure to on the slate. No one too exciting here. And that's not shocking. Again, one of the lower total games on the slate, so it makes sense. Next up, we have the Raptors going up against the Celtics, coming off of a back-to-back in a game that went into overtime last night. For the Raptors, do you have any interest in maybe like Scotty Barnes or Siakam tonight?
Yes, I do. From the standpoint of Boston is playing on a back-to-back, and they've played overtime. So I think while the field may be off, I would definitely want to have more Barnes and Siakam in the field.
Yeah, per usual, Siakam's looking good in the sim model. So it will be an easy 5-10% men for me. I don't like picking on the Celtics typically, so I'm not trying to go too aggressive here, but I think Siakam's really viable. And Scotty Barnes has just been great this season. So I probably won't get to him tonight, but he makes a lot of sense, just like you mentioned, TK. And then next up, we have the Celtics again, coming off of a back-to-back game, went to overtime last night. Jason Tatum said he was going to be questionable tonight. I am kind of leaning towards him not playing, but of course, we just have to wait and see when it comes to the injury news to actually make that decision. Of course, if Tatum is out, I'm willing to play Jaylen Brown, willing to go to Porzingis, White, Drew, Holiday, all here would be more viable for me. But what's your thought process here, TK, when it comes to if Tatum plays? Do you have any interest in this team versus if he ends up getting ruled out tonight?
Yeah, if Tatum plays, I'll probably just have interest in Porzingis. But if he's out, like you said, I have interest in basically all the nucleus from Boston if he's out.
Yep. Agreed. I don't plan on forcing exposure if he plays, but I'm pretty much assuming he's going to be out. And that's when I would start forcing exposure to the other Celtics here. Jaylen Brown disappoints in this spot sometimes, but I'm just going to go right back to him here. Next up, we have the Kings going up against the Hawks. Again, pretty healthy teams, but highest game total on the slate at 251, which is pretty impressive for me. I don't think this is a surprise, but when Sabonis is under 10K and is in a soft matchup, he's a priority for me. De'Aaron Fox, he's the thumbnail today. Again, I like playing these studs who are in high total games, and we've been picking on Trae Young for a while now, so I'm just going to keep that trend going. And outside of that, once again, if the domination station, the optimizer here at DFS Army, if it gives me exposure to some of the other pieces on the Kings tonight because it's the highest game total, I'm not going to try to tinker with it too much. But the only guys I'm looking to prioritize here are Fox and Sabonis. Am I missing anyone here, TK? Anyone else you want to touch on?
Yeah, I think Trey Lyles might be a decent value as of right now. Being at 3,800, he's somebody I would probably get to. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna be on Sabonis and Fox, like you said. And then whatever the optimizer do, hey, I'll be okay with it.
Yep. highest total game. I don't try to tinker with it too much. So yeah, even Trey Lyles, if he shows up a little bit, I don't hate that. Taco said my brother's been bullying the fantasy league with the Fox bonus combo. Yeah, both of those guys go underdrafted, or they did last season and for the last few seasons. So that's a little bit of a sneaky one. All right, for the Hawks, again, highest game total on the slate, but not a ton of injury news that makes anyone stand out too much. What's your strategy with the Hawks tonight, TK?
Yeah, with Atlanta, I do have interest in Trey Young. I think Murray's a little bit too high for me. And then I think Capella's interesting from the standpoint of the Kings, like kind of like Washington. I'm gonna play centers versus the Kings, like I do Washington. So I think Capella is an interesting GBP MME, and that's about it from this Atlanta team.
Yeah. The only guy that I'm going to make sure I have exposure to is Trey Young here. No surprise, highest game total. He's very involved for this team. If Clint Capella shows up a little bit, I'm fine with that, but he's another one of those bigs who it tends to split minutes close to 50-50 with Okongwu, and I think they're both priced pretty appropriately. But the matchup's not bad. I think you're right there, TK. So he's viable, but not a guy I'm going to force in tonight. Moving on, we have the Bucks going up against the Cavs. For the Bucks, Jay Crowder's been out for a while. Nothing too crazy here. I am having trouble finding a reason to play the Bucks tonight. I know Chris Middleton's looking like he's going to be pretty popular. Do you have any interest there?
Yeah, Middleton. I was getting a lot of him in my early crunches, so I would definitely be interested in him. Yeah, and then when it comes to Giannis and Lillard, those guys can always pop off.
Yeah. I do feel like, of course, Giannis, Lillard at 8,800, 200 less in salary than he was previously. Middleton at 6,700, still pretty cheap for the upside he brings to the table. They're all viable, but no one's a must play for me here. No, I'm not putting a like, not trying to force exposure to any of them right now with them all healthy. It just feels like a pretty average neutral matchup, not something that I'm overly excited about. For the Cavs, we have the usual issue at this point where Donovan Mitchell is questionable. Apparently, he is getting close to returning here soon, so that's something to keep an eye out for. That could be tonight. We have Merle listed as questionable. Evan Mobley's been out. Garland's been out. Ty Jerome has been out for a while. What are your thought processes, or what's your thoughts here for the Cavs?
Yes. If Donovan Mitchell plays, then I will have no interest in nobody from Cleveland except Mitchell if he has no restrictions. But if he's out, then I'm gonna look at Porter and LeVert mostly.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. That's the right way of thinking about it. If he's out, that's a way to do it. But if assuming he plays tonight, I'm not forcing exposure to the Cavs. Ideally, we get some interesting injury news that spices things up a little bit for us, but right now it's just feeling kind of meh across the board. I do like playing guards against the Bucks, so, but in this case, with Donovan Mitchell already being 9,500, and he's already seeing decent ownership at 11%, I'll be okay matching the field on him, but again, there's other spots later and in the Nets Wizards game, Kings Hawks game that I just prefer. Moving on to the 76ers, we already know Joel Embiid is going to be out tonight, going up against the Rockets, who have been better defensively than they have been historically. Looks like sportsbooks are expecting a pretty slow-paced game. Game total's only 224, very low. What are your thoughts about the Sixers tonight?
Yeah, with Embiid out, I'm definitely gonna go to Paul Reed, Milton, and Harris. I'm gonna keep going to those guys. With Maxey, he hasn't been it seems like he hasn't been himself since Embiid been out, but I would definitely want to at least match the field on that. So those are pretty much the guys I have interest for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I hate to be that guy, TK, but I didn't hear a word you said. We just got some crazy news coming in. where basically all of the Celtics are questionable or doubtful, which
Oh,
makes sense because they played a lot last night. We already knew Tatum was questionable to play. Jaylen Brown is now questionable. Porzingis is doubtful tonight. Holiday is
oh,
questionable, and Horford is already ruled out. We might just be playing a shit ton of Celtics tonight and mix in all of the studs that we like. We obviously don't know for sure what's going to happen there,
yeah.
but by the pre-lock show, I'll make sure we have a pretty good game plan for it. Can't wait to see that starting lineup if all of those guys are out. Obviously, some of the guys that come to mind right off the top are guys like Pritchard, um, Sam Hauser becoming more viable. Queta is looking solid. One thing that we have to look out for is it looks like Luke Cornett, he is back, so that could mess with the center minutes a little bit for Queta. Even Brissett would become viable if Porzingis is out with already knowing Harford's ruled out. I'll be interested to see what they do with the big rotation there. That might get a little confusing, but definitely an interesting situation. Do you have any quick thoughts on it? I know we'll dig deeper on the pre-lock show.
Yeah, I think Pritchard would look amazing at his price of was it 4,900? Yeah, it just it depends who's all out. Yeah, was Derek White on the thing
Derek
or
White was not on the list, which is
okay?
also kind of wild.
So I mean, if Derek White plays, I think he's gonna look tremendous if he plays, and all them other guys are out.
Yeah.
Wow.
After the Nets situation, I have trust issues. So I'm like, does Derek White have some sort of record he's trying to keep going? I don't know. I need to look closer at that. I need to make sure he's going to see his regular set of minutes.
Yeah, good point. Good
Dixon said
point.
the Celtics are basically Belichick's Patriots. Are you just saying that because they're in Boston, or why are you saying that? But yeah, I feel like we're thinking about the Sixers pretty similarly. Uh, I know Maxey has burned a lot of people, and that's why no one wants to play him anymore. I don't care. I'll continue to be over the field on Maxey. We know the upside's there. He's just been in not great form. He'll get back into form. He's due for some regression here soon, so I expect some positive performances to come here soon. Matchup against the Rockets isn't my favorite, but I like the low ownership, and so willing to attack that. Tobias Harris at 6,800, disappointed last time. Still too cheap for the role he has on this team. He's looking like he's going to be pretty chalky. I plan on eating that chalk. Melton, as of right now, I'm a little bit more comfortable being around field weight, but I don't feel strongly one way or the other. Kelly Oubre, I also like having exposure to tonight, but I'm not planning on Melton or Kelly O or Paul Reed to be core plays or anything like that. I was one of the few people who were over the field on Paul Reed last time around. So now that he's chalky again, not as excited about it, but he's still cheap and he plays a lot of minutes. So he's viable as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. It's just the matchup isn't overly exciting for me. Still a low game total. So I'm not going wild on the Sixers, but they do provide a decent amount of value in this mid range. Anything else you want to touch on here?
No.
Sweet. For the Rockets, I think I'm just not going here tonight. But what are you doing?
Yeah, with Smith out, I was getting a lot of Eason, but still gotta do more crunches. But yeah, I think he's gonna be chalk today. I don't mind getting to Sengun and GPPs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I should consider these guys a bit more. Sengun, he is more viable with Joel Embiid out. He's someone that does see a nice matchup here. I hate the low game total and I don't like the ownership, but he's definitely someone who's in a plus, slightly plus matchup, better than you would assume off paper. Outside of that, like you mentioned, the other pieces here, I'm really only excited about if Eason is actually ruled out. He's questionable currently. So if Eason and Smith ruled out, I would be way more interested in taking shots on guys like Jalen Green, Tate, even Thompson, just because they would have more secure minutes, but also increases. They see a nice increase in usage with Eason out. Outside of that, we talked about Sengun already. Fred VanVleet, I like his low ownership, but he's another guy I would probably only take a real shot on if Eason was ruled out. So as of right now, I'm pretty lukewarm on the Rockets, but I think they could be way more exciting once we get some news there. And Rodney, I agree. Definitely a team to target. If I didn't say this, appreciate you, Dave. But if y'all could hit the like, share, subscribe button, it definitely really does help the channel grow. Thanks, Dave. Also, if you're interested in being a VIP member, feel free to click the link in the description, promo code 2024 for a 24% discount there. So that's how that's going. Moving on, 2 more games left. We have a game that I feel like is going a little under the radar from even just like a total point. And even we just look at ownership in general, not getting a lot of ownership on the Thunder or Nuggets too much tonight. But what are you trying to do with the Thunder? Are you getting to any SGA or Chet?
Yeah. I'm definitely wanting some Shea Alexander. He wasn't showing up, but I would definitely force the optimizer to for more of him. But for some reason, I'm getting a lot of Giddy, and I see that the field is on him. But he's somebody that I would definitely be under, definitely in GPPs. He's somebody I would be under, and yeah, that's about it for OKC for me.
Yeah, if SGA's ownership stays at 1%, that's an easy 5 to 10% leverage play for me, especially if we get value from that Celtics game the way I'm expecting us to. And then Chet is interesting at 7,700 and staying low owned. I'm thinking about taking a shot on him, but I do want to see how that Celtics team plays out. And then Josh Giddey, I think we'll have better value options, so I'm not considering him as of right now. But if everyone plays for the Celtics, then he would become slightly more viable for me. For the Nuggets, again, we're not seeing a lot of ownership on MPJ tonight. You all know my philosophy. If you hurt me one night, I'm totally willing to go right back to you the next night. MPJ is one of those guys. With Aaron Gordon ruled out, he still sees a nice increase in usage. So I want to make sure I prioritize him tonight, probably around 10 to 15%. And then I want to make sure I'm at least matching the field on Jokic tonight. Anyone else you want to touch on? I know I didn't mention Watson at all.
Yeah, earlier, I was on to Watson and Cash, but now with Boston and that news, I guess it's a wait and see. But earlier I was on Watson for Cash, and like you said, Jokic, Murray, and Porter, I'm definitely on those guys. Those guys are definitely going under the radar. So yeah, that's about it for Denver for me.
Yeah, and you're right. Murray is priced decently well at 7,800. I'm okay with him being in my mix, but still not trying to make him too much of a priority for me. I'm sure Brandon will be on him if he's able to join later today as well. And then you're spot on with Watson. I'm okay with him being in my mix, but he's far from a priority, especially with that Celtics news. All right, last game on the slate. Decent game total at 231.5, but the spread is at 16 points, which is crazy. Very wide spread here. It makes it a little hard to get overly excited about taking shots on these guys. But did anyone stand out for you with any of the Hornet starters?
Yeah, with the Hornets, I wasn't really getting to these guys. But I guess you can attack the Suns with the bigs, because on Christmas we all saw what Lively did to him. So I think Nick Richards, he's okay, but with the news with the Boston, I'm not really. I probably won't be on anybody from the Hornets. So yeah.
I understand an argument on Terry here. If this game is able to stay close by some miracle, I would expect him to be a pretty big part of it. Similar story for Bridges. Outside of that, I just think we have better options. I don't hate the Bridges or Rozier call, but I don't see myself going to Bridges. Maybe Terry, but as of right now, I'm not excited about it. The Suns, again, I always like picking on the Hornets at least a little bit. Really soft matchup for these guys. The issue is just the spread. These guys might not play a lot tonight. We've been saying it forever, like playing bigs against the Hornets, but again, I don't want to go too crazy here because of the wide spread, but can't be scared of blowouts, at least the way I like to play. So I'll have at least 10% Nurkic, and I'll be around 5 to 10% on Devin Booker as well. Booker has not been good recently. He's actually been really bad. But again, low owned, 9,600, really good matchup, ideal bounce back spot for a player like that. So that's how I'm looking at it. Anyone else you want to talk about for the Suns, TK?
Yeah, not really. Like the Suns, not like you said, the spread is not too appealing. And then I mean, the studs are the studs. I'll get to those guys, but it's not something I'm overly excited about.
Yep. For me, I'm really just excited we got some value on this slate with the Celtics, and that will adjust my strategy a good bit if we do get that news. I do still want to make sure I have a decent amount of the Wizards. I want to make sure I'm going over on the Kings studs tonight. Want some Trae Young exposure, but I'm also more willing to take shots on Donovan Mitchell and Giannis in this game because of the added value. And also guys like Randall and Paolo, who I wasn't as high on, but now that we have that value, I think we can take some more shots in those situations. Anything else you want to add, TK, before we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, I'll just say, watch out for Boston on the Boston news, and definitely you guys should come back to the show later on today for more updates.
Yep, be able to give you a good game plan for that. And it's Friday. I wish you all a happy new year. Depending on the slates and how they break those up, I might go live on Monday. Not sure. Just depends on if the slate looks good or not. If not, I'll see you all next Tuesday. And I look forward to everyone having a great new year and happy New Year's Eve. All right. Peace out, guys. Bye.
All right.